What's up, guys? We are back with me, Ricky Bobby Betts on Twitter, and my man Matt O'Leary, New York. Back for the second round preview with OddsChecker US, and we're excited. Round one went pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty solid when you go 8-0 and I go 7-1 in the first round. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going here into round two.
Yeah, I don't think that's too bad statistically. No, it was definitely something. It was super fun to talk through in that first round. We got to see a lot of these good teams and the teams that we thought were about to go deep start to kind of show it. And yeah, it was super fun. I'm excited for these round two matchups. Considering we picked the winners for it, it's pretty much everyone we want here in these second rounds. And yeah, I'm excited for it. Let's dive into the first one. We're looking at Florida and Tampa Bay. Kick us off.
Yeah, so this one I think is probably my favorite of all of these matchups, which is, I mean, there's some good ones, so I think that's saying a lot here. But Florida is the new up and coming team, high powered, high octane offense, and Tampa Bay for me is a team that's just been there before and done it, and they could beat you in so many ways, whether it be Vasilevsky in net finally looking like the old Vasilevsky at the end of that series, or Victor Hedman on defense and some of their depth guys really leading the charge. Or, I mean, we know some of their high-powered octane offensive guys, they can hang with some of the best. So for me, I like Tampa Bay here, especially getting them at plus 130 for the series. Florida's team is really good. Obviously, they were one of the best teams all year in the regular season. They won their first round matchup, and they were waiting for one of these guys, and they get Tampa Bay here. But I just like what this team has brought over the last few years. They look as good as ever, and I just can't shy away from them until they prove otherwise. And to me, Florida still has something to prove.
Yep. First of all, I just realized that hoodie you're wearing, and I need one of those. That's super cool.
Yeah, there you
But yeah, no, I agree with you. The simple fact is this Tampa team is built to go deep. The roster has not changed much. 13 of those guys, your core guys, the guys you need, are there from that original run. They did it again last year, whether you want to call it the COVID Cup or whatever. They're back again. They did everything they needed to do this season. And I forgot who it was. I want to say it was Braden Point, but it might have been Steven Stamkos. Interview in between periods. And they were just talking about the bounce back performance from them in the last game and what they were doing at that point. And it's they look at it pretty simply. If you can avoid losing back-to-back hockey games, you have a pretty good chance at making a run in the playoffs. That's serious hockey, guys. You don't have to win them all. You just have to win 16. Here in this series is where I think, yeah, you get that. Even if that Tampa Bay team is tired, which I think they are. They've played a lot of hockey. That veteran experience, that playoff experience kind of shows through. And this is where I think the series shows the difference between Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky has been less than impressive for me this year. He started off better and has kind of declined a little bit. This guy's been in the league for quite some time. I think Vasilevsky's on top of his game, and obviously that Toronto team can really get after you. But this is where the strengths of Tampa just kind of play through. And Bobrovsky, I can just see him having a bad game or two. Plus, that's series price. I'm seeing 130. Not bad at all, considering how tight some of these other lines we're going to get into are. That's pretty good value on a team that can do it. We know they can.
Absolutely. They proved that they can do it before. And the other matchup in the East before we make our way over to the Western Conference, Carolina and the New York Rangers. Carolina, obviously the favorites in this one. Rangers fresh off a Game 7 overtime win. What's the feel here?
I've been big on this Carolina team all season long. I love what they're doing. They're one of the teams with the two goalies between Anderson and Ranta are both stellar depth-wise. All 3 to 4 lines you're running out there, you're pretty confident with throughout that game. And your top guys are just performing potent offense, incredibly effective on the special teams game. And, you take that aside, they led the league in 5-a-side goals expected and goals against this year. New York is good, but we saw some of those weaknesses from them exploited by the Penguins in this series. And I think Pittsburgh is a very good hockey team, but this Carolina team is much, much better. In the regular season, Carolina, when they saw Igor, I think he was 0-2 with a 3.68 goals allowed average. Um, he didn't look amazing in that series. I know he played well in the last two games, but the guys in front of him won those games. I mean, they were down 3-1, or was it 4-1 in Game 5? And I mean, like Igor Shesterkin isn't scoring those goals. Like the New York Rangers put the puck in the back of the net when they needed to. Um, I really think that Carolina, after that home series, I mean, they didn't win a road game. They won all four at home. Uh, got their legs under them, dug themselves out of they let them back into that series, and then they slammed the door. This was my first series feature, other than the Blues. I put it in months ago. I love Carolina to go deep, and I'm definitely on them in this series.
Yeah, me too here. And obviously, off an emotional win like in Game 7 in your home building, that's awesome. And you like to see that for Artemi Panarin, who had a little bit of a quieter series before that. For me, it's just when I compare the competition level that the Rangers are going to be going up against. It was the Penguins without Crosby for a few games and with Domingue in net. And obviously, like that's no disrespect to either Domingue or the Penguins without Crosby, but this is a completely different level team that the Rangers are going to be playing in the Hurricanes coming up here. I like them a lot. I think they are a very complete team. They could beat you in a lot of different ways, this Hurricanes team. And I think it'll be a good series. Like I don't think it's going to be a sweep or 5 games. I think this goes 6 or 7, but I just think the Hurricanes are deeper. They've gone a few years now where they've made it to the playoffs and won a round or so, but haven't really gotten over that hump yet. And to me, this just feels like the year that they finally get over that hump and go on a run and maybe even get to that cup final.
Yeah, just touching back on that, we're obviously both in agreement there, but there's two other things I didn't mention. Obviously, I love them in Raleigh. God, they're lights out in those home games, and they get the first two. So obviously, I would be shocked if they didn't win one, but if they win two of those, that's a hard series for New York. And then, the Rangers were outshot by 40 in that game by the Penguins. The Penguins were pushing a little bit more, but they're dead last in faceoff percentages of playoff teams still remaining, sub 450, versus a Carolina team that is 2 or 3, top 50 centers in the league. Like I really, I like just kind of some of the other little points on things. Just like those are the parts of the game where, if the special teams play comes into it like it did in the last series, and they're winning the faceoffs on those special teams on those offensive zones, it's just that's where Carolina's gonna break it back. They do it against anyone. It's not just a shot on New York. I'd be shocked if this team doesn't make the run to the Eastern Conference Finals. Absolutely. Now to the West, though.
Yeah, let's get into the West, and your team is in one of these matchups against Colorado. You're not picking against them now, are you?
No, can't. I'm going to be very honest. I think the Western Conference horse and probably the Stanley Cup champion is the winner of the series. Colorado is the best team in the league. There's no doubt about it. They have so much offensive talent, and between having whenever you can put those 6 guys on the ice, like you have those opportunities to do that, and whenever you pull them, those 6 guys together are hands down the best 6 guys you can have on the ice at any time, and they're just so offensively potent. They're stellar, but I think where St. Louis has the edge in this is depth. All 4 lines offensively for St. Louis have played great all season. Really pick it up in the postseason. You are returning. You have 13 guys out there who won a Stanley Cup 2 years ago. Ryan O'Reilly in the playoffs is a different player. He's one of the best centers in the league, but he knows what it takes to win in the playoffs. You see him talking constantly with the guys, and they're analyzing this, that, whatever. They know how to dog out a series. They've been there before. Craig Berube is a hell of a coach, and I think he can outcoach in this series if they get the opportunity to. I wouldn't be shocked if it goes the other way, but at plus 320 is what I got actually this morning. I'm seeing 290 on the screen. I just think there's too much value for a series that goes 6 or 7 games. I'd be shocked if St. Louis doesn't at least win 2. So, I mean, you're looking at, if you go to that game 7, it's anyone's ball game. And would be shocked if there's game 7. And yeah, I really like whoever comes out of this series to be in the finals.
Yeah. So for me, I agree with pretty much what you were saying there. I can't pick against Colorado right now, but to play into that, I'm not taking minus 380. The value just isn't good. So I'm not saying to bet on that in this series if you think Colorado is going to win. But I agree. I think this is going 6 or 7. And I guess I'll talk to the reason why I think it's going to be a deep series rather than why I think Colorado's going to win. And it's just they're from top to bottom. They are such a good team. But they, with the St. Louis Blues now, you're right, is they have that experience. And some of those guys, like Ryan O'Reilly, for example, is one of them. When the playoffs, when there you go, rocking the jersey right now. When the playoffs roll around, things are just different, and they're not going to go down without a fight. They've been playing really good hockey down the stretch here. I just think they're running into one of those teams that is just on an absolute mission. I've thought ever since Colorado lost in the playoffs to Vegas last year, I thought, all right, this team, they were really, really good last year and had good expectations. Now it just felt like they've been from day one on an absolute tear. They dismantled Nashville. And that's another thing too. Like maybe you can play into this team's been sitting for a little bit. St. Louis has played a little bit more recently and they can carry some of that momentum. So maybe that's something that goes on St. Louis's side. But I still got Colorado, but I think this is going to be a really, really good series.
Yeah, my final touching points on this one. Coming off, so obviously the Blues, after they won the Cup, they didn't win a playoff series until this last one, the Wild. They got swept by Colorado last year, but the difference in the defense is not what it was this year. They didn't pick up. Obviously, Torrey Krug's out right now, but guys like Nick Leddy, huge pickup. Colton Parayko, Bortuzzo, they're all. I mean, the defense is, and then Peruchinevich has stepped up big time. He's playing great. Guys like Kyrou. Last year, going into the playoffs, they weren't on the terror that they were. I mean, this team was 15-1-2 going into the playoffs for the last month and a half. Take down a really good Minnesota team. I think that sweeps on their minds. So I mean, it's just down to me. I think. Those are just some of the more points. Like, I really think this is a hell of a series. Just touching on what you said, taking this, saying like those series props on when will the series finish, 6 or 7. I would take them both if they're both plus money. You'll profit. I'd be shocked if you don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, one more on the docket here. This should be a good one too. Calgary and Edmonton. What's your feel here?
This is the one that me and Matt actually chatted about a little bit before to get a better one. My thoughts all season long has been this Calgary team is really good. And if you look at the splits since January and you know how to understand hockey and splits, you can't argue anything. What they've done since January is incredible. They play as a unit. They play so well together. And, they can outscore you by a mile or they can just shut you down and dog out a game. We saw it with Dallas. They can play hockey. Markstrom didn't really have a stellar series. I mean, shoot, game 7, did you see that first goal he allowed?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
No, not at all. And he put them boys in the hole, and then his boys went out and played for him. And your netminder is only as good as the guys in front of you. If your guys are hanging out to dry, there's not going to be anything you can do against a potent team like Edmonton. But, you look back on the matchup history of this one, the games are electric. This is a total series for sure. I definitely – there's going to be a game or two that probably ends around that 3 to 4 to 5 goal margin, which whether it's like 4-1, 3-2, 3-1, those will fall under. But the ones that don't, like, we'll see 9 goal games in this series. I wouldn't be shocked. Edmonton took the first one to start this year. Calgary won the second 2. For me, this is where, as much as I love Edmonton, I love McDavid, and I love Draisaitl, and I think that those guys have been getting robbed of a playoff, experience, run. That series against LA was too close. This Calgary team is much better than the LA Kings. I think Markstrom's on a mission in this one. I think those guys just realized that they're the 1 seed and they almost just got knocked out. And now you got to take care of a bit business against a team you can beat. I'm on Calgary in this one. I'm not going to be on the minus 190 line. I don't like my normal standard is 150, but like I will bite up to like 160, 165 for like a unit play if it's something that I like whenever a team total is at 2.5 minus 160, but not a series. I'm going to be looking to probably take the series finishings and back them in games like Calgary in 6 and Calgary in 7 will probably be my two bets.
Yeah, that makes sense here. And I'm with you on liking Calgary. And I think there's going to be a back and forth series. I think it's going to be a fun one. Like you said, this has the potential. There might be a game or two where the goals are just flying left and right because these two teams, they could really bring it. And for me, I like the point that you brought up where the Edmonton and Kings series was way too close. And when you look at the competition level, kind of similar to what the Rangers were looking at with Pittsburgh and now going to Carolina, for Edmonton going from LA to now Calgary, that is a massive step up. And I said it last series, and I wasn't right with it, that I didn't trust Edmonton's goalies, and it didn't seem to matter. And Mike Smith played pretty well in that series.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a little bit different now going up against this Flames team where, I mean, their top two guys with Tkachuk and Gaudreau are just phenomenal. And they're going to get their points and they're going to get their goals. So it's how you respond to that. And I think Calgary is the more well-rounded team here.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on that to close out because you brought up a really excellent point. Series hockey is different than regular season hockey. I say it, I preach it. I say this stuff for a reason, guys, because the reason I win bets and know my reads is I live by it. I pay attention to it for that. When you're facing a team one night, and then you face them again 2 months later, when it comes down to those key moments in the game, when you're having Draisaitl, Kane, McDavid on the ice and they're just running it. I mean, those are when those horses kind of win you games. But a 6-game series, a 7-game series, by that point, Calgary is going to start shutting some of those guys down. There's going to be a game where Leon Draisaitl doesn't get that shot on the porch that he lives for, because that's how you win a series. You have to have depth. I mean, you look at who scores some of these big goals in recent series, and who scored the 2 for Carolina? Dumby hadn't scored all. He scored 2 goals in the regular season, and then he put up 2 in Game 7. Going back to when the Blues won the Cup, guys who scored 2 of those 2 goals were on our fourth line. You have to, whenever the top guys are out there, that's when guys are going to make. It's got to be, you got to have somebody else step up, a big moment. Got to avoid the big mistakes. I think Calgary will do it. I'd love to see Edmonton. I'd love to see McDavid in the conference finals. I just don't think we're going to.
I'm with you. I think it'd be great for the sport, but I just don't think the team is around him is quite there yet.
Yeah. Well, that's the 4. I guess this one's a little bit shorter with less games in it, but God, this is going to be a fun one, man. I'm excited for the second round.
Yeah, man, me too. So you're going to have to keep it locked into Odds Checker. We'll be back for the conference final and, of course, the Stanley Cup final. But for now, that's going to do it for Ricky Bobby Bets. I'm Matt O'Leary. We'll talk to you next time.